Hey everybody, this is Christina from Brush and Bristle Studio. I hope you're having a good day today so far. So today I'm going to go over how to use the 18-ounce metal camp mug mock-up. That's a mouthful. So this is for the solo mock-up. I do have a multi mock-up that has 3 mock-ups in one, but today I'm going to go over just the solo mock-up. My mock-ups are to be used in Photoshop and Photopea. Photopea is a free web-based software that you can use. It is very similar to Photoshop. You can access it on your iPad or your computer. You might even be able to get it on your phone, but I've never actually tried. But you go there by going to your web browser and typing in www.photopea.com. Now, I'm going to split up this tutorial into 2 parts. The first part will go over Photoshop. The second part will go over Photopea. Because the programs are both so similar, I will be going over most of this mockup in Photoshop and only be going over a very slight change in Photopea. It's just a small difference with how you mess with the smart object and then how you save the files. So if you plan on using Photopea, please make sure to watch the Photoshop portion as well. So to start, you want to look for your smart object layers. Now I have the smart object layers set as these red tabs right here. Now one thing I made sure to do with my mockups is I set them up as one-click change. So that means that when you change one of the smart objects, it will affect all 3 mockups, all 3 mugs at once. So let's go ahead and look for our red tabbed layer. We're going to double click on this icon right here, and that's going to open up our smart object. Now we want to open up a file and we want to get our design into this tab. To do that, you're going to go up to File, Open, and I've got a design right here to use. I don't have any 18-ounce designs, so I'm going to use a 20-ounce design that I've got. So you want to select all by pressing Control A, or you can go up here to Select and then All. Then you can press Control C or go up here to Edit and press Copy. Once that's done, you can close this tab, go back to your Smart Object tab and press Control V or go to Edit and Paste. Here we go. And after that, you want to go ahead and press Free Transform if you need to resize your design. So you can also press Control T to do that. As you see, you've got this bounding box around your design. So we want to get this to fit the canvas. So now you want to hover over the line of your design, like the edge of the design. You don't have to be on the squares of the design. And you just click and drag to the edge and it should snap to the edge. Once you're happy with how it's sized and positioned, you can go ahead and press this check mark up here. Now, if you have an issue with your design snapping to the edge, you can always go up here to View and make sure that your snap has a check mark beside it. And that will help speed up your resizing process. So once you are happy with your design on here, you can press Control S or go up to File and hit Save. And that will update your mockup. You see all 3 were changed at once. So I believe that every design, you're going to want to make some little tweaks and changes to with your like shadows and highlights. And I try to give everyone as much access and flexibility as possible with this. So I'm going to show you how you can edit these things so you can make all of your designs really pop. So the first thing that you can do is you can go up here to this extra highlight shadows spot and you can turn the visibility on there. As you see, it does make it pop just a little bit more. Now, I don't think that any of the shadows and highlights are really a one size fits all. So if you take that down, you'll see you've got 2 filters right here. And these 2 filters, they're going to affect every aspect of your mockup, the mugs and the background. When you edit these, and if you edit these, keep that in mind. So, and I'll show you in just a second. To edit these, you're going to double click the icon and it will open up its panel. So we have a brightness contrast filter right here, and then we have a vibrance filter right here. You can double click and it opens up the brightness contrast panel. You double click this one and it opens up the vibrance panel. So let's take a look at the brightness contrast first. And you just click and drag and get it where you want it. And as you see, it really affects everything from the mugs to the background. So I have it set in a general position where I felt like it worked with most of the designs that I was testing it on. But again, if you want to mess with it, you can. Now, I feel like you could probably take the contrast up just a little bit, at least on this design, um, and it would look pretty nice. I'm going to leave these alone for now, and I'll show you vibrance. This one really affects the coloring of your design. So you need to be very careful with this because I could see some people making it very vibrant and then people would get upset that colors weren't true to what it was supposed to be. So, and it's the same with saturation. All right, so next I will show you how to mess with the actual like shadows and highlights on the mugs themselves. So in this folder, it's hard to see the name, but it's shadows and highlights. You've got your lid shadow, your highlights, a glossy overcoat, and shading. Now, all of these have their own blending mode. I would not recommend messing with the blending mode on this. You can mess with the opacity and fill, but some of them are already like they're maxed out. So you might want to make some other changes. Let's take a look at each of these one by one really fast so I can go over things that you can do with them to make changes. So the lid shadow, if I toggle this on and off and you look over by the lid, you can see the shadow just a little bit under there. You see it kind of pops out from underneath it. So I have the opacity set at 50% on this one. This will allow you to take it up to 100 and really darken it if you need to. We're going to go ahead and take that down. And it works the other way as well. So if you want to make it any lighter, feel free to do that. Now, highlights and glossy overcoat are both set at 100. If you feel like it's too light on some designs, you can always select the layer that you want to make brighter. So highlights or glossy overcoat. We'll say highlights for right now. We've got that layer selected and we're going to press Control J and that will duplicate that layer. So if we toggle that on and off, you can see that it does intensify that highlight. Let's say that, well, we'll do that in just a second. I will go ahead and delete this right now. And we will go to shading since glossy overcoat is really the same as highlights. Now, shading is one I get contacted about the most. People want to make the shading darker. So as you see, the opacity is already set at 100 on this. So you can't really make it darker. So you want to do like what we did with the highlights and make sure that shading is selected and press Control J. And this will duplicate the shading layer. But as you see right here, it's too dark. So we can go up here to opacity and we can take this down just a little bit until we're happy with where the shading is. So that's some ways that you can mess with the shading and highlights to help make every design really stand out. All right, so now I'm going to delete this copied layer and I'm going to show you what happens if you mess with the blending mode on these layers. So we're messing around up here and I'm sure you see this spot right here and you're like, linear burn, oh, what's this? Well, this is what's going to help you with achieving that shadow effect. The highlights and glossy overcoat, they're set to screen, but most of the shading I do on linear burn. Now, if you mess with this, as you see, it can give you some very crazy results. um, so you don't really want to mess with this. Now, other than that, you've got these bottom shadows. Now, bottom shadows, I think, is another one that you probably want to tweak depending on the design and the background that you use. So, again, this is set to linear burn. I do all my shadows at linear burn. And then the opacity is set at 50. So, this will allow you to go ahead and take it up a notch to darken it. You can darken it all the way to 100, and it does get pretty dark. So, I'm going to take that back to what I had it originally set at. Those are some ways that we can change the mugs to help make your designs really pop on them and make the mock-up really stand out. Now, the next thing I'm going to show you are the backgrounds really fast. I give you 8 backgrounds out of the box to go with a variety of different designs that you've got. So you've got a white shimmer, you've got an everyday, a black and white bokeh, a beach, park and picnic, mountains, mountain lake, oops, and sports stadium. So if we go back up here to white shimmer though, I do have this layer right here, and this is set as a clipping mask onto the white shimmer only. So if you recognize the setup, it is set up just like a filter. So this is an adjustment layer for hue and saturation that will allow you to colorize this white shimmer background. So if you double click on this little icon right here, it's going to open up your hue saturation panel. Now I'm going to darken this really quick to help make the changes a little bit more noticeable. So one thing I want to go over real fast is this colorized box. If this colorized box for some reason gets unchecked, you won't be able to see any of the changes. I know when I first started using Photoshop, I would try and use the hue saturation and I wouldn't realize that the colorized box wasn't checked and I'd start getting frustrated like, why isn't this working? So if that happens to you, just make sure that your colorized box is checked. So now you can go up here to like your hue and you just click and drag until you get to the color that you want it. Now let's say we want it to be more like purple or something. And let's say we want to try and match those paws. And let's take the saturation up a little bit. I think it needs to be a little bit more pinkish. And let's see, should we lighten it up a little bit or should we darken it? I mean, that really matches the paws, I think, but I want it to be a little bit lighter. So you can really achieve any color that you want for your background. You can also add in like other kinds of backgrounds back here. And if you do a clipping mask on top of that, you can still achieve the same effect. To do the clipping mask, you just right click on it and we'll release this one for now. But you right click and then you go to create clipping mask and it will put the clipping mask on top on the layer directly below that layer that you put it on. Also, if you plan on adding your own background to this, make sure you put it in the backgrounds folder because you want to keep it behind all of your working layers. It's just a good way to help make sure it stays out of the way. But that's really all for this mockup. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can contact me in my Etsy shop or you can leave a comment down below. I try to get back as quickly as possible. If you plan on using Photopea, make sure to stick around for the second part of the tutorial and I'll go over the couple little changes that are in that. But if this is the last I'll be seeing you, hope you have a great day. Hey everybody, welcome back. So in this part of the tutorial, I'm going to go over how to use this mockup in Photopea. Now, again, Photopea and Photoshop are very similar, so I'm not going to go over absolutely everything to do with this mockup. I'm only going to go over the slight changes that there are. Photopea is really, really nice. I love how convenient it is. You can be traveling, be out by the pool, whatever, and let's say you get contacted by a customer and you want to get something to them really fast. I find using Photopea on my iPad so much easier than trying to use Photoshop Express. And I don't even think my mockups even work on Photoshop Express. So in that situation, Photopea is great to use. So as you see over here, you can sync up with all kinds of cloud services. You can use all kinds of different files. As long as you have the internet, you just go to your browser and type in photopea.com. Now let's go ahead and click open from computer. And I'm going to navigate to the file. Now, like I said earlier, pretty much everything is the same. There are just a couple little changes. So first off, we are going to open up our smart object. Again, look for those red tabbed layers, double click the smart object, and then you go up to File, and you can hit Open just like we would in Photoshop, but they have Open in Place. And this is great because it saves you some steps. So hit Open in Place. We're going to double click that. And as you see, it went ahead and copied, pasted, and set it to free transform for you. So that really does cut out some steps and save you some time. So I'm going to go ahead and resize this. And hit that check mark. And then you can press Control S just like you would in Photoshop, or you go up here to File and then hit Save Smart Object. Smart Object updated. Let's go back to the main document. And as you see, it's there again. So you can make all the same changes that you did in Photoshop with the shadows and the highlights, with the backgrounds, everything. That is all the same. The only other weird little thing that I've been contacted about before is saving. So if you go to File and then Export As, then you can choose the file type that you'd like. I typically save these as JPEG because they're just mockups. So Export As JPEG. You can come up here and name your file what you want. So we'll just name this as mockup one. If you click on that and then you decide, oh, I'm meant to get a PNG, you can always come up here and hit PNG and that'll change stuff. But I'll take it back to JPEG. If for some reason the dimensions aren't what you want and you want to try and resize it, you can do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. And then you can mess with your quality here before you save. So we're going to hit save and it will end up going to your downloads folder either on your computer or on your iPad. So it's super simple, super easy to use. In some ways, I think it's quicker than Photoshop because of that open in place feature. So if you guys have any questions or need help with anything, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm always happy to help. So feel free to contact me in my Etsy shop or in the comments down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So, but I hope that this tutorial helps you and I hope you enjoyed your mock-up. I hope you have a great day.